Woo, buddy. All right, that last one was a little on the long side, so I'll try to keep moving through this one because this one's pretty literal and it just kind of is what it is, right? So, but let's keep going. So now we're going to talk about the effects of global contact, right? We're going to talk about how, like, with North Americans being, with North America being colonized by the French and the English, and then the South America being, and Central America being colonized by Spanish and the Portuguese and stuff like that, right? Now we got to talk about, like, how the heck that affected everybody else, though, in ways that weren't intentional, all right? So really, really quickly, put that underneath there. Put, like, none of this was intentional. It all kind of just happened, all right? So anyway, now, first and foremost, there's going to be this big thing called cultural... No, I'm just playing. Don't get too excited. I saw you over there, Gwen. I saw you get excited. All right, anyway, the Columbian Exchange, right? Which is a great example of cultural diffusion. Happy cat. Now, anyway, the Columbian Exchange. The Columbian Exchange is when North American goods, such as corn, turkeys, tomatoes, etc., right, are going to be exchanged for European, African, and Asian goods, like bananas, coffee, onions, stuff like that, all right? So really, really cool thing about it is that it wasn't intentional, and it is responsible for the diets that we consume today. So really quickly, I don't know what it is about this word and this concept that no kid can seem to understand year to year. This is an informal process. They didn't do it on purpose. It has both positives and negatives, right? This area had no clue that this area existed. And this area had no clue that this area existed. So in these two geographically isolated areas before 1492, they grew different stuff, all right? So they had different items. It was like discovering an alien planet, right? So in North America, South America, you had goods such as squash, pumpkins, turkeys, peanuts, potatoes, tomatoes, corn, vanilla, right? Beans, chocolate, pineapple, tobacco, peppers, sweet potatoes, all these things that Europeans never seen before. They were like, oh my God, you can eat this? It's delicious. So much so also that it had a giant economic impact, right? That the potato became like the crop of the poor because they're so easy to grow, right? So, and then from Europe, Africa, and Asia, they had stuff that they didn't know that the natives had never seen. Things like smallpox. Well, a lot of it was disease. But like smallpox, influenza, typhus, measles, like, but that's the negative side, right? The positives, though, were like beasts of burden, cattle, sheep, pig, horse. Grains was a big thing. They didn't have any grains over here except for like quinoa. Now, wheat, rice, barley, oats, peaches, pears, coffee, turnips, sugarcane, all kinds of stuff, right? That they had never seen. Grapes, citrus fruit, right? So all this stuff that ended up in North America and South America. They did not do it intentionally, but it turns out that these things can grow in different parts of the world. So they exchanged them, and now to this day, due to the Columbian Exchange, we have access to all of these different foods, right? It's huge. This is a visual representation. So check this out. Last extra credit opportunity. These are all North American goods. It's corn, tomato. That's not a rock, Roger. All right, that's a potato. That's vanilla, maple syrup, tobacco. Right here. If anybody can tell me what that is, I'll give you extra credit. All right, on your DBQ. I'll give you a couple points back. All right, so, and right here, you've got citrus fruit, apples, bananas, other mango-looking things, so probably grapefruits, onions, you got wheat, you got hay grass, right? You got barley, you got all kinds of cool stuff right here. This Asian good, if you can tell me what that one is, I'll give you extra credit. And I'm going to do that during the warm-up, okay? During the warm-up on Monday, okay? So that's a visual representation of the Columbian Exchange. Now we have access to all these things. Like, for example, if I had to live my life without, like, I can eat a banana every single day. I love bananas. And I'm not supposed to be able to have them because I live on this side of the world, right? So now, Europeans are going to find new foods. It's going to, like, be new to them, like pumpkins, peppers, corn, potatoes, things like that. It's going to well round out their diet, right? Bring new vegetables to their diet. Europeans are going to bring new animals to the Americas that they really needed. Horses, chickens, goats, cows, new food sources, new labor sources, new everything, right? So this is going to be huge. It's going to change everything. New foods and animals are going to establish healthier lifestyles. I promise you, this one is going to be shorter. Are going to establish healthier lifestyles, even for the poor, right? New foods are going to be cheaper. They're easier to store. They don't go bad as fast. So life expectancy is dramatically going to increase. Population is going to be booming as more people are born and less people die, right? Now, a lot of this actually comes later, though, with like new vaccinations and stuff like that. But life expectancy is going to go up, all right? Population is going to slowly start to increase. It's not until like the early 1900s where population did this. And it just went skaboom! Like, and it just absolutely escalated, right? So, and a lot of that has to do with like Salk's polio vaccine, penicillin, different, the dramatic decline in birth deaths, right? So things like that, right? So, but the commercial revolution is also going to break out. So put a star next to that. The commercial revolution, also known as the price revolution, is going to begin when prices are going to rise on certain items and the new laws of supply and demand in complex economies are going to grow, right? So this also goes hand in hand. If supply is up, demand is down. If demand is up, supply is down. And we're going to go further into that on Monday, all right? But I'm just trying to roll through this. So the commercial revolution is going to bring on the idea of like the international, write this down, the transatlantic marketplace, right? The idea that now there's so many colonies all over the place and so many like father metropolis countries sending people everywhere that all these goods are going to get mixed up and spread all over the place that countries are going to begin to sell to each other a lot more as well, right? So that's going to bring around the commercial revolution. People are going to begin to actually start buying things. A lot of that has to do with this thing called the putting out system that I'm about to tell you about in like 8 seconds, which is not something the CP kids learn about, but it's mainly because it's a very complex thing and you need to pay attention. All right, so now check this out. More money is going to begin to circulate through the economy. Increased trade, exchange of goods in the transatlantic marketplace is going to go up. But one huge negative that comes along with that is inflation, which is a rise in prices due to the amount of money that is available, right? So money is going to become much, much more available. Now, underneath this, I want you to put Spain in parentheses, all right? Spain is a dramatic example of inflation. And we'll get to that in the next unit, okay? But it's on its way. So due to the giant influx of gold and silver from the colonies, inflation is going to run rampant, right? So money is going to be worth less. You remember when you were young? Like when you were younger? I remember when I was younger. I remember when the first time I ever looked on a candy store shelf when I looked at a king-size Reese's cup, right? The four-banger, you know what I'm talking about? I remember it was 75 cents for that. That junk is like $2 now, all right? Inflation happens all the time. Some of you are going to say, what about gas? That's much more about supply and demand. And also because it has inelastic demand, because literally you'll pay it for it no matter what, just like milk. But inflation is a rise in prices due to the money being available. Then, due to all this global contact as well, capitalism is going to begin to emerge, right? Capitalism is going to grow because of these new joint stock companies. Like the East India companies are the first examples of capitalism. Businesses that are going to be owned privately by joint stock owners, not by governments, right? Entrepreneurs are going to be these business owners that are going to take a risk and invest money in a startup and the companies to make a profit. Now, the risk being that if the company goes down, they lose all their money, right? It's like a big gamble, okay? So, keep going forward. Capitalism is going to come up. This is another big thing. The commercial revolution is going to lessen the need for artisans. Not to mention this other thing that was going on in Europe called the Enclosure System, right? Write that down real quick. That's important for you to know. The Enclosure System. The Enclosure System was on the back end of the commercial revolution when they had access to all these new plants and animals, and they started coming up with new inventions like the seed drill and stuff like that. They're going to start needing less people to work on these farms, right? So they're going to start enclosing these little areas. These landowners are going to be like, all right, I'm going to fence off an area and give it to one family, and then they're going to farm this whole area because they can do it efficiently now. So that's the enclosure system. So if you need less people to do that, that's going to bring along this thing called the cottage industry, and also known as the putting out system, where literally products are going to be made in steps in people's houses by like different people, right? So this is because, like, let's say Susie's family doesn't have a farm to work on anymore because of the enclosure system. And then Adam's family is the same way. And then Crystal's family is the same way. And then Sam's family is the same way, right? So you all live in your houses with your families and stuff, and you're like, oh, dang it, what am I going to do, right? What am I going to do? Hold on. Low battery. Oh, no. All right, I got to hurry this up. So you're all going to start freaking out a little bit, and just like I am, that my battery's going to die before this is going. All right, so anyway, now you all begin to start making things in different steps, all right? So you're literally going to start building things in different steps as in, i.e., like, for example, Susie, your job would be to actually take sheep raised on a farm by my company, okay? And you're going to actually take their wool and you're going to try, yeah, power cord. Anyway, so you're going to take their wool and you would actually comb it out so it's all straight, all right? And then you're going to send it over to Adam's family. Adam's family is they're a group of spinners, right? So Adam's family is going to begin to spin that like wool into yarn and cloth, right? And then you're going to send that over to Crystal's family. And then Crystal's family is going to take that yarn and put it through looms and put textile work to it. And then you're going to send that over to Sam's family. Then Sam's family is going to make that new textile cloth into actual into actual like fabrics, shirts, yards of clothing, right? And this is going to bring along this idea of like the consumer revolution as well, because people are now making money for a service, so they're going to go out and start buying things, right? And that's going to give even more gas to like capitalism. And it's like this big cycle that just feeds into the modern day and why we exist the way that we do, right? So that's the putting out system. Anyway, now the last thing that's going to rise up is called mercantilism, right? So mercantilism is this. It's a fun word to say. Just say it one time. Say mercantilism. Now, mercantilism is going to rise up. Mercantilism is when a nation actually tries to export more than it imports. Also, write this down underneath here. It's when they try to accrue as much raw money as they possibly can so they have more money than their neighboring competition, right? So France was a big proponent of this during this time period. Louis XIV was a big mercantilist underneath his advisor, Jean-Baptiste Colbert, all right? So they were big fans of mercantilism because of the idea that if I have more money than my neighbor, it means I'm more powerful. It means I can wage war for longer. It means I can do a lot of different things, right? So countries are also going to use things like tariffs, right, which is a tax on import to make even more money. So the global economy, the transatlantic marketplace global economy is rising up during this era, right? So during the early 1500s, or late 1500s, early 1600s. Now, this revolution is going to help countries like England and France make more money while keeping other countries very, very poor. So that's it. And that's a shorter flip, and that's the second one. So I'm going to load these up now. I hope you all have a great rest of your break. Enjoy yourselves. Finish up those rough drafts. I miss you guys. I can't wait to see you again. Have a good one. Wish us luck today. We have a game against GC, so have a good one.